Welcome to Monarchist Minute, Royalist news and discussion out of the good old US of A. We've completely forgot to do who's doing the intro today. So yeah, I didn't know how to give Vic the cue because I had already started my NASA countdown thing that I like to do. One of these
Okay,
days, I will have a good intro. Vic.
okay, so on the show tonight, we'll be discussing the upcoming anniversary, which will be June 2nd, of the fall of the Kingdom of Italy. We will also be discussing a myriad of other topics, but first, Coronation post-game show. And I've got bones to pick. Let's go with the first one. And this is something that I noticed. I watched the NBC coverage live. I watched the NBC coverage live. I saw some snippets of other coverage of the coronation from ABC and CBS afterward to compare it, and with UK as well. And there is a running theme from our coronation coverage. The American networks, ABC, CBS, NBC, all had their morning show hosts covering the coronation. The coronation of a monarch is not something you send the Today Show to cover. It is something you send your serious news people to cover. The only serious news person that was brought into the NBC coverage was their White House correspondent who talked about the First Lady going to the coronation and about what the president was doing today. For the record, President Biden is planning a visit to see King Charles later this year. But but it would be okay if the people from the morning shows actually knew how to cover something serious. That's not like a pop culture news thing that, you know, that that was a live thing that was happening right then and there. Let's get into the highlights. Savannah Guthrie, the anchor for the NBC coverage, would not shut up. I was attempting to hear the music while they were talking about, while it was playing. I wanted to hear the full I was glad. Couldn't do that because she wouldn't stop talking. And they just wanted to get their comments in about every little thing while they felt they had a moment, and those moments were always when music was playing. Oh, and then the bishop, the Archbishop of Canterbury, gave his sermon. I thought it was lovely. NBC had a whole roundtable discussion about the sermon during the Veni Creator Spiritus. I just about had it because I wanted to hear that. And they had plenty of time during the the monarch's procession afterward to talk about the sermon if they wanted to. They were very ill prepared to broadcast a religious service. They weren't even, they said that the communion was presided over by the Archbishop of Canterbury. The ABC people, they had Michael Strahan, former NFL lineman, Hall of Famer. He thought Zadok the Priest was a new composition. I'm not joking. They were nobody was prepared. It felt like, at least from the NBC side, nobody was actually prepared to discuss the coronation as a religious service. They had historians on, which was fine, but those historians, they weren't really given a chance to shine with things that were actually relevant. They spent time asking where William and Kate were, their Royal Highnesses the Prince and Princess of Wales. While the last people were filing in, they were asking questions about where they were, when I think if they saw the order of service and the order of events, they would have seen where they would have been. So there was just no preparation. It seemed like they were just winging it. And they made the broadcast so unenjoyable that I had to go back to YouTube after it was done to listen to people throw up the actual performances of the hymns that I wanted to hear. And if we compare that to the BBC's coverage, it was just night and day, the difference. The BBC's presenter, Hugh Jenkins, the same guy who announced the Queen's death to the British public, he was very professional. He knew what he was doing. It was an enjoyable experience not hearing him speak, because you can say a lot by not speaking incessantly. And they didn't even, and none of the American networks picked up the coronation concert with Lionel Richie performing. You would think Americans would want to listen to that, no? Well, none of the American networks picked it up. So any American who wanted to listen to the coronation concert was out of luck. So, but the actual ceremony itself was incredibly beautiful, and like everything was very well done. The American broadcasting of that was just absolutely just awful. I'll allow anyone else with any thoughts to speak now, because I have just been on a soapbox for the last several minutes.
Yeah, we tend to keep the soap industry well employed. I hear that they were going to switch to like plastic containers to move the soap in, but then people like me came along, and we just prefer the old wooden soap boxes to stand on. But let's see. I don't have anything. Unfortunately, I the only part of the coronation I saw live was when I came downstairs in the morning for work. My mom was watching the coronation. But I had work that day, and yeah. But I did hear that that they use that the that the Anglicans borrowed Catholic vestments, which is okay. You had how many months to prepare, and then also you knew that one day she was Queen Elizabeth II was gonna die, right? Like, and even if you didn't, you don't have nice vestments on hand. Like, I mean, come on, guys. Like, you're the capital of the Anglican communion or whatever you call it throughout the entire world, and you can't afford nice vestments. I mean, I know you guys have been declining since you guys don't follow actual theology anymore, and you guys been shedding members like crazy. But like, come on, like you couldn't spring for.
Right. Trad, do you have any of your own thoughts?
I mean, personally, not many. The only thing is, I think too many people who. So this is not addressed to the general monarchist public, just to the Catholic one. It is. I mean, yes, it is a good thing that a king has been coronated, but don't spend too much time lauding the Protestant. Now, this isn't an attack on Protestantism, but don't spend too much time lauding a Protestant king. As Charles always says, there will be eventually more Catholic kings in England, and those will be the days when we will be truly jubilant. But until then, settle what we can get.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I would like to say, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, as I guess Charles Columbus said. I don't know if he got it from somewhere else, but um, and as I said, better a Protestant on the throne of Edward the Confessor than a Republic. Um, it's just that it's not ideal, but because again, it seems like there's two extremes. I guess there are people who are like, oh, this is great, this is great, and the people who are like, oh, this is the worst thing since people started to sell unsliced bread. I mean, I mean it. I mean, you got to understand that it's in so many ways the coronation is empty show because of his oaths to uphold justice and whatnot. When if he actually tried to do that, the parliament would probably oust him quicker than uh Cromwell chopped off Charles I's head. But you got to understand that right now this is the best in the English speaking world we're going to get, and if you don't like it, pray. I mean, it's kind of what we Catholics are supposed to do. It's like, you have what was it? I haven't seen the movie yet. What's the movie where the guy's gonna jump off the bridge? The Christmas movie. Whatever. But the guy says, "I'm not a
It's a
praying
Wonderful
man."
Life.
Yeah, Wonderful Life. So he's like, "I'm not a praying man." It's like, dude, you're a Catholic. Like, prayer is whatever. So yeah, so pray, hope, don't worry. And if God wills, there will be a better future that awaits us.
Speaking of Catholic monarchies, the King of Spain had a very busy coronation day. He was at the coronation, then he had to fly back to Spain because the Copa del Rey final was that day, and he had to present the trophy to the eventual winners. Congratulations to Real Madrid for beating Osasuna in the Copa del Rey final on Coronation Day. Let's move now to did anybody get a chance to did anybody else get a chance to watch any of the coronation?
Yeah.
I unfortunately did not.
I was unable to.
Okay. So let's move on to Italy. June 2nd marks the anniversary of the end of the Italian monarchy.
In a totally free and fair referendum, let me tell you.
Oh yes,
Definitely,
very
totally
true.
not at
But
all rigged.
it was the safest. Okay, that's probably gonna get us in trouble. It was the safest referendum in history.
Yeah.
I
No,
mean,
So I
personally. So the comment made by many here in the discussion of the referendum is, and this is going to be another one of me being angry at monarchies, despite the fact that I'm a monarchist. People are saying "R.I.P. to the Savoyard monarchy, the Kingdom of Italy." in my opinion, I didn't like the Kingdom of Italy. They overthrew the Papal States, and they were kind of cringe. So yeah, no, I didn't. I mean, did not miss
Yeah,
them.
granted, I would have liked to see. I would have preferred a more German Empire style, where
I
instead of overthrowing the other local monarchies, a Savoy as in a greater among equals, like the Kaiser was in Germany.
or they could have just pulled a Habsburg and married everything. Like, I mean,
That yeah,
personally, this totally isn't coming from the fact that I'm a Spaniard, but I am entirely in favor of a Two Sicilies style of setting up Italy with the Papal States, of course. Uh,
I too am in favor of Two Sicilies, but that's just because I'm a language nerd, and the Sicilian and the language of the Naples are
Neapolitan.
both going extinct. Yeah, Neapolitan. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think that the Kingdom of Italy was just cringe from the beginning, especially the unification and the invasion and conquering of the Papal States. Too cringe, in my opinion. But you know, better monarchy than fascism. So
Yeah.
Yes.
Now I have the percentages here. The percentages that they it came into was 54 to 45% with decimals for with Republic winning. My opinion, that's too close for anything, especially since, according to what I'm looking at, 6% of the votes were considered invalid.
yeah, no, someone shows up and they're a known royalist. Well, maybe you don't need to vote today.
Not only that, but the south of Italy, so what used to be part of Two Sicilies, and the island of Sardinia were the highest parts of royalist sentiment, which I don't know if that's because of the non-urbanization of those parts or what, with rural areas being more conservative. I just think that's neat how that there's a more or less defined line where the split is.
Yeah, anything really south of Tuscany was fairly opposed to losing the monarchy, but I think that it was less of an election for all of Italy, and it was more of an election of, inner city Romans, people who were in favor of losing the monarchy, who didn't have to deal with the things that people in Naples and Sicily had to deal with. So, just my opinion on the matter. I mean, like I said, not a fan of.
But that doesn't really explain the all of this massive bit of northern Italy up by the Alps that was in favor of a republic.
Uh, Napoleon.
Yeah,
When Napoleon had come marching through back during his days as a lowly colonel, I think at least a colonel, maybe he was a general at that point. I don't remember, but came marching through Italy, and he basically had a policy of tapping every little place he found and making them into a republic. So he found he like when he got to Rome, he made it the Roman Republic. When he got to certain states in northern Italy, he made them all like the Lombard Republic. I think was one of them. But he just went through and tapped everything and said, "You're a republic. You're a republic. French Revolution ideals. Oh, isn't it
and
great?" And no, it
the
wasn't.
the biggest part of the North that voted to remain a monarchy is what used to be Savoy, the
Hmm.
Kingdom of Savoy. So it's where the house was from. So it's like they kind of had the
Well,
feeling of power.
there'd always been a separation between North and South Italy since the Roman Empire dissolved, because, like, for example, during the days of Two Sicilies, southern Italy was under Spanish control, and before that, it was under nation states of like Naples, but it was never unified with the North. And I mean, the only intermediary was the Papal States between North and South Italy. If the Papal States hadn't been there, almost surely there would have been, thousands more confrontations between the North and South. And so it just, I mean, with the combination of the kind of traditional split between the north and the south of Italy, and then Napoleon, and then World War I, and then World War II rolling through, I think it was kind of inevitable that the North would be more Republican in leaning, which is unfortunate. But that's just why I think that the Southern Italians should just break away and form their own kingdom.
Now,
I'm not saying I
they're
disagree,
probably
but
not going to be. They're probably not going to be doing that because I think
Likely
that
not.
southern Italy is actually more left leaning now. I think, and northern Italy is now more right leaning. But someone fact check me on that.
I'm checking now.
Yeah,
Thank you,
find
Bubba.
voting stats for Fratelli d'Italia, and then you can figure it out from there. But yeah, no, I mean, well, that would bring us into a topic that I'm not going to get us started on, but the just cropping in Europe of little, social liberal kind of democratic parties, like all of these little rose parties, and it's like, go away. We do not need you here, you anti-monarchists. But soon enough. I mean, as we can already see in like Italy and Poland, things are starting to shift a bit more royalist and right-leaning, which right-leaning in the context of just general conservatism, and which leads to monarchy, of course. So I think that it's already looking better. The only nation, sadly, that I'm worried about not doing that is Spain, which has been under the control of the little socialists for quite a while now, which is quite unfortunate. But I don't think they're going to last that long. I think it's temporary.
So, other than the Copa del Rey, what other things has the King of Spain had to deal with this week?
Felipe, I mean, what he normally does, dealing with terrorists in the Basque country and telling the Catalonians that they're stupid. I mean, that's all he really does nowadays, is just like that, and then get the prime minister out cheered. Because, I mean, if you see any event where he goes anywhere with the prime minister, it's prime minister walks out, everyone boos. King walks out, everyone cheers. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
From
Bubba,
what
do
I'm
you have those
seeing,
stats for us?
it looks like Southern Italy is traditionally less conservative than the rest, but it seems like it's a pretty good mix from what I'm looking at in the 2022 general election. It seems like the mix is pretty standard.
It should standardize along certain regions like Tuscany,
Oh yeah,
Rome, Naples,
Bologna,
Lombardy.
Bologna, um, is actually very liberal still, which was one of the highest regions that voted for republicanism 77 years ago.
Surprising nobody, because they've always been kind of against monarchies in the region. They've always been kind of a weird little
Well,
Italian
maybe because
republic.
I think it's because they lost their bucket way back when.
Oh, the bucket war. I love that. But that's a
Yes.
topic for another day.
Yes. Any other interesting statistics that you would like to share with us?
Uh, Not that I'm seeing that I'm able to understand, because I'll be honest, I don't understand other countries' elections besides the U.S. But
Okay.
I agree.
Just
I like the Electoral College, so
so just go through and give raw numbers, and let's see if any of us can make some sense out of those numbers.
okay, give me a second.
Thank you. All right.
Uh,
As
While
for
he's
yeah, I was
uh,
about to say, what we could do is we could move on to the other topic we kind of had lined up, which I know Charles was a bit excited about. If you would like to introduce it, or I can.
Well, it's my show, but sure, why not?
No, go ahead, man. I mean,
Okay. Let's see. So, there are, in the American monarchist community, you can see that there are many diverse opinions, 95% of which are wrong, because 95% of people do not agree with me. Koshin. Anyways, um, but among a certain subset of American monarchists, there's got to be at least 300 of us now. Ooh, anyways, that's like, anyways, so there are a certain group of people who say what we need to do is we need to essentially just have a president, and then he declares it president for life, and then it becomes a hereditary office and whatnot. And we essentially add a hereditary element to all of the existing titles to help ease the transition. Now, this is an idea that at first kind of makes sense because the term emperor today has a sort of hereditary implication. You know, we just think of it as the level above king in the hierarchy of noble terms. Despite that kind of being a simplification, but whatever. But originally, you know, even Caesar kind of made this as a joke because people were thinking that Caesar kind of wanted to be a new king, which, let's be honest.
He did.
But you know, some people were saying, you know, boo king, whatever, because the Romans were kind of cringe at the time, and he said, but Rex, which was, you know, the Roman word for king, was sort of was actually a common surname, I guess, among the Romans at the time. So he said, "Oh, you got the wrong guy, not Rex, Caesar," and apparently people didn't like that. I mean, I guess, you know, brilliant military commander. Well, according to him, he's really the only source we've got on the thing. Brilliant military commander. I guess he shouldn't quit his day job and go to SNL. Probably still be better than the current lineup. But yeah, so I mean, on the surface, it seems to make sense. The whole replace, you know, take over the same titles thing. But I think that we've kind of reached a critical point where we already have kingship in its best form. Because remember how a while ago I was talking about connotation, and a while ago another episode of the word, and kingship in Christendom has already developed the most perfect connotation of service and devotion to country, that it would be foolish of us to try and essentially recreate the term for by applying it to president, which is a very, I don't want to say meek, because meeking a horse means taking its strength and then channeling it to domesticated use. So a stallion doesn't lose its strength when you domesticate it; it's just been meeked. But a very, I guess, weak term, um, because, you know, you're essentially the presider over a meeting, and that's not a term for a king, for a sovereign, for someone who rules and reigns. And same with the governors, because I mean, but that's just because governor is a boring term. It's like you're describing what he does. You're not giving me any more detail than that. I mean, the word governor just means one who governs, kind of basic. Not gonna lie.
So that brings up the question: what would be the ideal titles in an American monarchy?
Okay, this is the more interesting discussion. Thanks for pointing that out. We should not have an emperor. Okay, we should have a king. And the reason why is that the king needs to be subject to the emperor, the Holy Roman Emperor. And I know that right now, for all intents and purposes, the Holy Roman Empire is basically dead, but all it takes is the Pope, the crown, and a Habsburg, and bing bada boom. But the fact of the matter is that eventually, if an American monarchy is established here, chances are something's going to go down in Europe, and the Holy Roman Empire will come back, because we seem to move broadly as a unit, Western Europe, right? So right now we all agree we're the West, but in, you know, 100 years or so, hopefully we'll all be like, the West? That's a pretty dumb geographic term considering the Earth is a sphere. How about we go back to being Christendom, which would be a worldwide term because, you know, the Japanese who are Catholic are part of Christendom. But anyways, that is you know, the thing. This is another hotly debated point. Our predecessor organization, USAM, well, one of our parent organizations, said we would have an emperor, and I'm like, but why? Well, now I am. I used to think it was a cool idea. But I wonder if this is going to be a controversial topic, because this might be a controversial topic.
I mean, I'd expect it to be, given the permanence of it. But in my opinion, I mean, I don't think that the U.S., like, I think it would be a bit odd if the entire thing was one monarchy, but I do think it could work. If it was one monarchy, I think empire and emperor is a good term for it because America's just too big. It acts as too big of a player on the world stage for it to not be an empire. So if we went with an imperial idea for America, I think that titles should be arranged as such. So we would have the emperor, the empress, the imperial family. I think if we had any form of democracy, it would be the imperial diet, right? The council of nobles, or have you. But if it were a strict kingdom, the kingdom of America, then I think king, specifically Latin rex, would be the good term. But honestly, I don't think the specific title matters too much as long as we decide on is it empire or like just a kingdom. But
I
that's,
mean,
I mean, to be fair, that's splitting hairs right now. We're not even close enough to being able to decide that. I think it's more important right now to just focus on the actual spreading of our ideals of monarchism.
one thing we could do is for Switzerland, where Switzerland technically doesn't have one head of state. They switch between the heads of the cantons. And not saying that we should have 50 leaders that take turns, but you could have like regional, like New England, the West Coast, the Great Lakes area, etc., and have different and have like a pentarchy or whatever, however
That's
many number archy.
that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking it would make more sense to have maybe a Holy Roman Empire style where we have multiple kingdoms, Kingdom of Bohemia, Kingdom of Brandenburg, uh, Grand Duchy of Austria, etc., under one empire. So we can have I think, and I'm not usually an elective monarchist, but in this case, I would be an elective monarchist if obviously the monarch is being elected from monarchs. I think at that point it makes sense, and it kind of my issues with democracy up to the like level of picking which king is the greatest king to make emperor. I think that my problems with democracy don't exist at that level. So I think it would be great to have an elective monarchy at that point, and to have the kings of, say, New England and the middle colonies and the southern colonies, the South, I guess, as a whole, Dixie, Pacific Northwest, etc. And it makes more sense to split up the United States kind of culturally and geographically, as opposed to the weird state thing we've done where the states don't really work.
One of our listeners is saying Malaysia does something similar.
Yeah, Malaysia does do something similar, though I think the HRE is kind of the best exemplar for a Christian, under the assumption, I mean, we're all Catholics here, so under the assumption of a, Catholic empire, I think it would make more sense to base it off the Holy Roman Empire.
Oh
That
yeah,
includes a pope crowning ye. But,
not Pastor Jim.
yeah, no, not Pastor. Yes, the coronation by Pastor Jimmy Bob.
Yeah,
Oh
so
no, Reverend Jim's Bob's daughter didn't get an invite. The National Cathedral didn't have enough seats. Oh,
What about you, Vic? What is your opinion on this topic?
my opinion on the debate of king versus emperor is I don't care.
how dare you not have an opinion?
Well, we need to do a ton of other things first before we worry about that.
Yeah, I mean, that in the world of politics, how dare you not have a fully formed, well thought out opinion on something you just decided to start thinking about 10 minutes ago?
well, I do get the argument that we are too big to have a king, but I really don't care. But I think an election system would be kind of interesting in a way, but it would lead to all kinds of issues and all kinds of things that you're not even thinking about, like, oh, what if one of the candidates doesn't accept the results of the election?
That has never happened in the history of America elections, and you know it.
Right. Let's see. So
After
I'm
looking at
looking
the
at these
result,
Italian numbers that you sent.
they're kind of all over the place. From what I'm seeing, you have some of the country that's very left, like Bologna. You have most of the country that's quite right wing, and then you have Naples and Sicily, which is, for lack of a better term, center or third positionist. They have some left policies, some right policies. Like they're very green, but they're also populist. That main party that won a lot of seats. And if that's not a unique position, I don't know what is. Um, so yeah, it's hard to categorize Italy like it would be, say, the United States or Britain or even the Germany that used to be split in twain.
So if we're looking at the, not to take us back to Italy, I'm going to take us back to Italy, the Italian Chamber of Deputies, the popular vote by party, Fratelli d'Italia received, I'm going to call it 26% of the popular vote, and that was the largest share of all the votes of all of the parties. Seat distribution at the election, Fratelli d'Italia had 30%. Popular vote among coalitions, the center-right coalition had 43.79% of the popular vote, and the center-right coalition had 59.25% of the seat distribution. So the center-right has a lot of power there. Most of that power is concentrated within the Fratelli d'Italia, with the League Party having pretty much an equal share with the Fratelli d'Italia, only a 7-seat difference between the two. So I don't know if that tells you, if that tells you anything about Italian elections. Go
It
off.
tells me I don't understand them, so there's that. But long story
Right.
short, it seems like the North is more conservative than the South. The Alps is more conservative than the South, from just what I'm looking at. But what do I know?
Well, I mean, yeah, I don't think that many of us exactly have stake in Italian politics. We're not exactly like, big into it. So I don't think our commentary firstly has much backing or anyone will care too much about it. But I do think it is interesting to kind of just in general toward Europe, see how Europe has been recently shifting more right and more, I mean, inherently royalist in certain areas. And I think it's good to promote royalist leanings all over Europe to return us to, better state.
Right. And I think that we do. I think that we do need to, like, just take a look at that and just think, oh, well, it looks like Europe is trending more conservative. And that is the only comment that we can really make about the Italian election. But let's I think was everybody done with their point about the monarchical titles thing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So
We
let's I don't think we had any other topics.
Would we have anything off the back of our heads, or we gonna wrap up a quick episode?
On the back of my head is some hair.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Same.
Thank you, Captain Obvious.
Hey,
No,
It's
his
it's
name
not
is
fine.
true for
Charles.
everyone. Some people have some people have baldness. I mean, it's a terrible disease that affects people of all ages.
That
Yeah,
is
Right.
a quote of all time.
it is indeed.
So, how about we wrap her up, I suppose?
I agree.
All right. So, if you would like to join us live on Monarchist Mignon, then and tell me to shut up for trying to do French, then you can then you can join our Discord by clicking that link
Link
in the
in the
In the
description below.
description
description
below.
below.
If you would like to follow us on Le Twitter, then you can follow us on Le Twitter by
By
clicking
clicking the link in the
that
description.
link in the description below. If
Below.
you would like to give your index finger some exercise, then you can do the scrolling down to the description below and see the other wild and wacky stuffs that we have. Because honestly, at this point, if you don't know what we have by my saying it, that you are just not the most intelligent person, or you don't bother to listen to my ramblings and skip right to the prayer. Which, by the way, let us conclude in prayer. Will is not here, so it follows to me. All right. I don't know why I said that. Sing that. I'm not gonna sing the prayer. All right. In the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Ghost. Amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen. All right, until next time, may God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.